Sup all, it's Dogman, and I got some feedback from the last video. Apparently you guys like these long rant yap videos. I don't know, man. I got the idea from like baseball YouTubers and stuff where they'll just sit there talking about baseball for like an hour or 2 hours, and I guess some of you guys like it. You know, I appreciate that, so thank you guys for the good feedback that we've gotten so far. Now, I saw this idea that I wanted to cover today, which is an idea from the Reddit post by user bestmessage6312, which was basically asking which of the current Marvel Rivals Pro players were the best at Overwatch. And I figured, as somebody who used to play a lot of Overwatch, I was like, okay, this seems like a fun idea. I'm down to cover that because there's a lot of history here, and you might as well, right? Like, there's a ton that these guys have done before Marvel Rivals, and I figure, you know, for those of you interested, you might be interested to find out more about those guys, because there's a lot of information we have to go off of, right? So a lot of this is going to be anecdotal, obviously. A lot of, as you guys say, fucking dogmanising. I don't know what the hell fucking that means. I mean, I kind of do, but you know, we won't go into that, right? So we're gonna miss games like Paladins. We're gonna miss games like Fortnite, HOTS, even some like Rogue Company. I don't know. Not gonna cover that shit. I didn't play those games, so don't know anything about them really. Maybe they'll be worth covering or going into, but I don't think I could do it justice, considering I think some of those guys, a lot of the EU guys won even like the Paladins championships and shit. So there's a lot of really good players that played Paladins. I'm not going to go over that. Sorry. Maybe there's going to be like an ex-Paladins pro who could talk about it or something. That'd be sick. So, or maybe like somebody that is in the scene that used to play Paladins could let me know. Or in the comment section, maybe there's one of you guys who knows more about these players' histories, because I know a lot of us in the community, just to go into this real quick, I know there's people in the community wondering where these people came from, what they played before, Fortnite or whatever. So if you know anything, let us know. It's kind of like a anonymous tip line. If you know anything about these killers, let me know. All right. So we're gonna go over some of the top players that in the current Marvel Rivals esports scene, who they are. We're gonna go over some of the coaches in the scene. We're gonna go over even players in the scene. And I don't know if I said that already. Sorry. It's late again. I'm recording this at like 11 p.m. because I thought I could like spend 5 minutes looking everything up. No, turns out I needed to spend like 2 hours looking up literally everything, and I'm going to miss a lot. So sorry about that. But we'll also cover some of the streamers. So there's some streamers in the scene that also have a notable following and do watch parties and shit. So we'll probably cover some of those guys that did well in Overwatch that I had experience with, or even if they had notable results. So with that out of the way, we'll get into it. Some of these players we'll talk about more than others, okay? Just to get that out of the way, because I have more experience with some guys. I'll go talk about them probably a lot longer than I would others, right? So that's about it. If there's a player that you feel like I left out or whatever, I'm sorry. I promise I want to cover a lot of these guys, and I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile missing a ton of these dudes. So if you want more coverage on some of the people, or like I said, if you can let me know in the comment section below more shit about some of these players, please let me know, because I guarantee you may even have more experience with these guys than I do, okay? It really is that simple. So yeah, this is, like I said, a lot of this is going to be anecdotal, and we'll get into it in a second. Already needing water? Rough. I was going to originally, by the way, talk about like a lot of their, specific results in Overwatch, but I'm probably not gonna. Like sometimes I will, sometimes I won't, and it's not going to be exactly consistent. So yes, just with that out of the way, kind of like I said, a lot of anecdotal experience. So let's talk about some North American players and coaches. We'll talk about European later on, because I have some interesting history with some players currently in the scene, and in some of the best players in the game right now. So, first guy we'll talk about, which is not a player, sorry about that, iRemiix. We'll talk about him currently because he was a main tank player back in Overwatch 1. He played in the Overwatch League in 2018 for the Los Angeles Gladiators, was a part of the Gladiators roster during the inaugural opening season, which is the same thing. I just said that twice, sorry, during Overwatch League. But yeah, he notably started for Gladiators. I believe it was during the playoffs, actually, when Fisher like boomed for the Gladiators, I believe. Like there was a Korean player named Fisher, who was notably a hothead, and I guess boomed in the roster. and then IRemiix played because of it. I think like he was a pretty solid player. Pre-Overwatch League, he was my teammate on Team Kungarna. He was a very solid main tank for us. I think he was solid in general. The Shock guys, I believe, housed him for a bit to play in like a playoff matchup for us during Contenders because he is from Puerto Rico. And during like a crazy Puerto Rican hurricane, his literal power went out and he needed a generator to actually have electricity and to fucking live in sea. So during that time, they had to like somehow get him out of Puerto Rico so he could play in our match. So he hit up some of the guys he knew, I believe, on NRG or Shock, who amazingly housed him, I believe, for a few matches so he could play for us. So that was awesome and was really necessary because we absolutely needed him during those playoffs, which we might have won if we didn't have freaking King Michael on Tracer instead of Dalton. Instead, we had Dalton. That's the only time I'll talk about Michael during this video. But I'm still pissed off at IRemiix for not helping me kick Michael off and picking up Dalton. That's brutal. Frick you, IRemiix, for doing that, honestly. But honestly, it was a really good player. Only real complaint I had was his like tunnel vision, I guess. Like he kind of tunnels a bit hard. Sometimes died a bit more than you would like for a main tank player. Was overall very aggressive, but could rate it in sometimes. Like I think he was pretty smart in that regard. I saw like people saying that XQC was like the best main tank during this era when he competed. Nobody talks about IRemiix for some reason, so I'll talk about IRemiix. Like, brother, IRemiix was way better than XQC. I listen, I love XQC. Hilarious content creator. So, got onto the Dallas Fuel because of his following and stuff. Brother, IRemiix was like way better than him. I'm sorry. Like literally so much better. XQC was hyper aggressive, really, really forward all the time. IRemiix was that too, but it could at least hone it in. XQC could never hone it in, dude. Bro was always going in. Like I feel like you cannot be the best player of an era if a team's entire strategy, that worked, by the way, was kill XQC. As much as I love XQC, I think he's awesome, amazing to interact with, and people have been boasting about his playing days. I think he was a great player in certain situations, but I thought IRemiix was better. I mean, he was on my team. We won more than he did on his squad, always dominated them. Our entire strategy was to kill XQC, and it worked because we knew how aggressive he would play a lot of the times. And I feel like IRemiix never did that. IRemiix was a solid player during this era and doesn't get enough praise because he's one of these guys that kind of takes a lot of punches. You know, he kind of opens himself up to it. Don't get me wrong. Like he's a little crazy, but because of that, I think that he doesn't get enough credit. And this is probably the only time somebody will glaze IRemiix because apparently people don't do that. He was a very good player, I think, during this era. And really the only thing you could say is he was a bit stupid for letting King Michael stay in Kungarna instead of Dalton. That's about it for IRemiix, the coach of Team 100 Thieves. And we're going to talk about a few coaches because honestly, I guess I'm old enough now to where the only people I really have experience with were coaches. We'll talk about that later, but a lot of the young guys that are making a name for themselves with the rival scene, I saw while they were like coming up, but sort of missed their era in terms of playing with them. So we'll talk about another coach. In the meantime, we're going to talk about Gator, who was a main tank at Overwatch, although did play off tank for a little bit during the Overwatch League era. So he was in Overwatch League also. Played for the Atlanta Reign from 2020 to 2022. Also was a coach for the team. And then also became an Overwatch Champions team coach in 2023 through 2024. So he was around for a long, long time. Notably, a lot of people remember him for playing on Team Goats alongside Coluge and Tensa and his own brother. They invented the Goats comp. That was the comp in Overwatch that was 3 tanks, 3 supports. And it was really good because Discord Warp on Zenyatta was a thing. Also, Zenyatta did a lot of damage and still some solid healing alongside Brigitte, who could enable it a lot. She was kind of the main reason the comp was so good after that character released. So they figured that out. They played it. And we'll talk about that. People pointing out, I said we talk about that more later on, but we literally will when we talk about Crimzo. He was my teammate during the Atlanta Reign. He played on our B team on the Atlanta Academy squad as well with me during that era with Sugar Free and Hawk. Awesome guys. He was okay. I think he was solid. He was a very good leader. I think he was only kind of lacking mechanically sometimes, but that's also not true because he picked up Sigma during the I believe it was 2019 playoffs, or I guess it was 2019 playoffs, where he played really well. He was like one of the fastest players to pick up Sigma besides like the SF Shock players in Choi, and I think he was really good. Honestly, was a straight up very good player. One of my favorite teammates. I wish I got to play with him more, honestly. Just a super fun vibe guy. And yeah, it's awesome to see him doing well for Team Liquid Citadel with Legit. So yeah, Legit was never a player, but he was also with him in the coaching staff of that team. I love Gator. Jayta, as we like to call him. Please call him Jayta if you ever see him. Jaytar or whatever, however you want to say it. Just a fun way to say it. He always calls me Bowerman because of my last name. Don't fucking do that. I swear to God, if any of you guys call me Bowerman in the chat, I will. In the chat? The fuck? What the hell? Oh, my fucking brain rot, dude. In the comment section. Sorry. He used to do that. He used to be like I guess from a military family or whatever, so that's where he got that from. Yeah, love Gator. A lot to say about him, obviously. I think he's a hilarious personality, and I hope he opens up more because, honestly, to me, I always thought Gator would be like a big streamer or something. Never did. Never did because maybe he just doesn't like interacting with the public because the public kind of hates him for talking shit. So, I don't know. If he could overcome that, I think people would love his personality a lot more. Yeah. We're going to talk about next a player, like I said, we're going to get into this sort of like weird era where I don't have a lot of direct player interactions with these guys. But can kind of tell you what people thought about them at the time. And like I said, if you know more about them, if you watch a lot of North American contenders, for example, you'll know a lot more about Speedily. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. He was a DPS player in Overwatch. A lot of people thought he was like a prodigy. He played for Atlanta Reign for a little bit, eventually for the Toronto Defiant. Was a really big prospect coming out of the NA contender scene, coming out of American Tornado in the Tier 2 pipeline. Did not really do much in Overwatch League, but it was hard for really anybody to do it well, especially as the Western DPS market was just filled with Koreans. Like, it was dominated by Koreans outside of a few notable names. You had to really be a special player to stand out in Overwatch League as a Western talent. So, yeah, I believe... yeah, that's kind of about it that we could talk about for that era. I believe he made Team USA as well. But yeah, a lot of pros who played against him said he was really gifted mechanically, super good in scrims and in practice. I didn't have a ton of experience playing against him. To me, it always seemed like he was a bit of a disappointment in Overwatch League since people said he was going to be like sugar-free levels of good and talented, but just never in a match day had the pop-offs that the sugar-free did, really. But everybody has like really high opinions of him if they came from the Overwatch scene because Speedily was like dominating scrims. So I kind of have to lean on them in that regard because a lot of people had super, super high opinions of Speedily from that era. Still, even in the Marvel Rivals scene, a lot of the guys that came over said Speedily was spawn camping us for a long time and was insane in scrims. So kind of have to lean on them in that regard. Speedily, very, very highly touted guy, just kind of disappointed in Overwatch League because of how many good Koreans there were. Like, it was absurd how hard it was, I think, to compete as a DPS player for a lot of these guys, which we'll talk about later. And another guy that actually stood out is a teammate of his who actually had more success in the Overwatch League than Speedily did, and that guy is Nero, who was a DPS player in Overwatch. He played for a lot of Overwatch League teams. Most, I believe, out of most of the guys we'll cover today, he played for the Guangzhou Charge. He played for the San Francisco Shock. He played for the Atlanta Reign. After I was gone, he was on the team. One of the biggest results he had, what the hell did I write down here? No, that is not true. But he was like a very good player during Overwatch League. Sorry, guys. One of my notes is just completely fucking wrong, like a dumbass. But he was a very good player in Overwatch League at the time. Always touted as one of the best DPS players from the West, which was a big deal. I think he had like a Doomfist meta where he played really well for the Guangzhou Charge. But outside of that, he didn't really, I think, do much. Like, he was solid for the squad. They had like a Western sort of lineup for Atlanta Reign where he was good on, but Was overall, I think he had one of the better results, I think, out of any of the Western DPS players. Like I said, I can't overstate this, guys. Like, it's very hard to stand out as a Western DPS player in Overwatch, or at least it was at the time. Nowadays, I think it's kind of more diverse, but at the time, it was just crazy how dominated by Koreans it was. And yeah, just a very good DPS player. Some of the notes I took was that he made a very smart switch, obviously, coming into Marvel Rivals, switching to support. He's truly one of the best strategists in the game now because of it. I think that I've always equated sort of DPS players to being like shortstops of, if you know baseball, of this game, where they'll like be really good and can flex to most positions, but will take time to learn a different position and usually don't want to because it's way more fun to be a DPS player generally. So huge respect of him to switch over. I think he was talking to me about at the midseason switching over to do DPS again because it's more fun, but obviously hasn't, and he's still playing really well for Team Liquid Citadel. Another thing for him back in Overwatch, just some anecdotal shit I could talk about. I was teammates with him for about 6 months for a team called Toronto Esports and Boston Academy. But we never competed in official tournaments because this was when Overwatch League Season 1 was beginning. And I didn't make any of my tryouts at the time. I believe it was for like San Francisco Shock, for Boston Uprising, for a bunch of other teams. Didn't make any of those. Played with Nero on this team alongside Dalton, alongside Moth, if you know him, Panker. And we would fucking just dominate Overwatch League teams at the time in scrims. Like, we didn't have anywhere to show how good we were. Just practice against Overwatch League teams to get them ready for the regular season, for the inaugural season, and just fucking shit on them, dude. Like, we would dominate LA Gladiators, we'd dominate Boston Uprising. With Striker, we would go even with them in scrims a lot. And it was just sad that roster that was really good behind the scenes couldn't ever be seen because of the fact that it wasn't an Overwatch League team, and it was all happening in scrims, so they were taking away time from us of competing in Tier 2 because of Overwatch League starting up. There was no tournaments. It was like a weird dry spell while Overwatch League was starting up, so that was very sad. But he was a really good Genji player. Was just pretty quiet, but he was overall very smart, very mechanically skilled. Really nothing bad to say about Nero. Nero was just a really fucking good player, and that's it. Just kind of puts the work in and is a grinder, and yeah, just whatever fucking generic goddamn things you want me to say about him. He was really good and a good teammate too. I didn't really have anything bad to say about him. Another coach we'll talk about is Tensa. I just wanted to real quick talk about him because I don't think enough people talk about him. He's one of the coaches for Team San Francisco Shock, and he was a support player in Overwatch. Coach of NRG Shock, not San Francisco Shock. He didn't play in Overwatch League, but he was on Team GOATs with Gator and Coluge back in the day. So he really was just on a bunch of smaller scale teams as like a Lucio player, was a main support player. But notably, the reason why I wanted to bring him up is because he used to play Overwatch with a controller in his left hand and his mouse in his right. And I'm sorry if I get this wrong. He'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. But he did this because I believe he got in an accident. And that required him to use a controller in his left hand and keyboard and mouse in his right. So he had like the movement on his controller and aim on his mouse, which is really interesting, very unique. I never thought he was like super mechanically skilled. I thought he was held back because of his very unique sort of setup. But still very impressive to compete at any level with that setup. So smart guy, and obviously a lot of people respect him. I think he coached 100 Thieves recently, and then now is on Energy Shock. I think he's done well, and I hope he gets a lot of success doing that. So let's continue, and on to a player in this scene. We'll talk about Rymazing, who was a guy in Overwatch 2, a DPS player in Overwatch 2, a lot of Sojourn and stuff. Didn't play in Overwatch League, though. He was too young at the time, and also was kind of stuck in Tier 2, Tier 3, like a lot of these other guys. You'll notice that. I think a lot of the dudes we'll talk about were kind of stuck in Tier 2 or Tier 3, especially if they were super young. Very hard to, like I said, very hard to break into Tier 1 as a North American DPS player unless you were just fucking crazy. Unless your name was Sugar Free or Speedily or Nero, you weren't really going to make it in the Overwatch League scene because you had to be so consistent and cracked and just insane. Rymazing was good, but as a hit scan player, that role was also filled by a lot of guys, so tough to break into that scene, and then comes over into Rivals and obviously does well. But yeah, he was on a lot of solid tier 2 scenes. He played with Karova, I believe, over there too. So that's how he kind of knew Karova, and that's kind of how I know him. Partially. This is kind of my own anecdotal stuff. Like I said, we'll go into some weird shit. But Rymazing, the reason why I became friends with him was because he was a former teammate of mine in the Halo Infinite release, which is kind of a weird drop. None of you probably played it on mouse and keyboard. But we played right after it launched because I thought after Microsoft was like announcing this game as, oh my God, it's going to be a crazy good game for mouse and keyboard. It's finally Halo getting back to its roots, back to PC when Halo was good. Fucking no, dude. You lied, Microsoft. You fucking lied to me. I spent like a year of my life, makes it more like 6 months. 6 months of my life. That's a large amount of time for an esports player, okay? Wasting my time because I was told that we were going to be able to be competitive on keyboard and mouse. No. During the first 6 months, we had none of that fucking bullet magnetism shit they added later on. So we were just competing raw dog style versus guys that could fucking 4-shot perfect you with a controller and aim assist. It was bullshit. But Rymazing and I bonded over this team that was full of keyboard and mouse players. We were like, oh, we'll show it to those controller guys on our keyboard and mouse by getting top 26 in the tournaments, you know? But that's still kind of impressive considering how hard it was to fucking compete against these guys who would just perfect you every single fucking fight. I wish that game was keyboard and mouse because my brother in Christ, this is a small side tangent, Halo Infinite is such a boring fucking game to watch on controller, man. Okay, listen, I got nothing wrong with controller players. COD League is actually my favorite esport, even though none of them have skill with aim because they're fucking aim assisting onto everybody and it just looks like fucking crap. The skill expression isn't there anymore. It's all about team play and macro at this point if you're team shotting. That was kind of the problem in Halo Infinite. Like, you just couldn't keep up with these guys on controller because the aim assist was too good, and Microsoft touted this game as a good game for keyboard and mouse. You fucking lied, Microsoft. You added bullet magnetism so we can compete. Great, now we have goddamn aim hacks so we can compete with people with aim hacks. That's fun. That's awesome. No wonder the fucking Halo HCS is dying because your shitty esport did not transition to keyboard and mouse. Maybe the game would have been exciting if we would actually see people move around. Instead, these guys are playing on like 0.1 sensitivity, just slowly aiming around like a fucking grandpa because it's way easier and more consistent to get your aim assist on people. It's just fucking stupid. Listen, I maybe there's like 1 or 2 Halo Infinite fans out there that like watching the game on controller, but it's fucking trash, brother. It's goddamn trash. If the game was on keyboard and mouse, maybe it would have been good. And Rymazing probably would rant as long as I did on that. And that's why this section that nobody cares about, and you're like, why the fuck did Dogman just rant for 7 minutes about Halo Infinite? That's because I spent 6 months of my life playing in that shitty fucking game because it was actually fun, but not fun playing against controller players who just didn't make mistakes because they're on a controller. Anyways, awesome guy, Rymazing, always rooting for him, obviously, because of that. And yeah, sorry. Just had to get that off my chest, all right? Had to get that off my chest. Crimzo was a flex support player in Overwatch. Played in Overwatch League for the Dallas Fuel, the Houston Outlaws, Boston Uprising, and was one of the more established Western flex supports in Overwatch League. He was probably the best Canadian support player of all time. Very consistent, had a very long career. I think I have probably more to say about Crimzo because I played against him a lot in Overwatch League. He was a very good Ana player, I thought, better than his Zenyatta. I always thought I was better. Obviously, you have to if you're a competitive player. I think that would be stupid if you didn't. But in hindsight, I think he had a longer career than me, was really consistent over the course of a few years. Maybe he wasn't always the best support player, but I think there's something to be said about his longevity and consistency. So I've always had respect for that. I think Crimzo was a very, very high-level player for a long time, and then also has done the same thing in Overwatch, being a coach and then transitioning over to main tank. So yeah, I always thought he was really good. In fact, he was the guy that showed me how good fucking Goats was. There's a fly flying around my face, sorry. He was, I believe, on Team Envy at the time with Sharp and those guys. And in a scrim versus my team, I think I was on Atlantic Academy at the time, would play Goats versus us 3-3. And they just sped boost, sent fucking deep Crimzo into our backline who killed me on Zenyatta when I was on like Ana or something in a traditional 2-2-2 comp. And I'm like, guys, can we just stop playing this fucking 2-2-2 comp? This is ass. They're playing goats and running it down on us. Like, what am I supposed to do when they're on fucking Brigitte, Reinhardt, Zarya, Diva, Lucio, and whatever the fucking third support was or whatever? Was it Lucio, Brigitte? I already covered it. See, I'm already thinking Brigitte's a tank because of how stupid that character was at the time. At the time, I was like, oh my god, this comp is so low skill. It's so stupid. They can just fucking speed boost at us. The more I played GOATs, the more I realized that I think there was a lot more skill expression in terms of timings, in terms of a lot of other stuff. It was a lot deeper than people gave it credit for. And that's why when, people talk about these super sustained comps, they're like, oh my god, it's so low skill. You're right, it is kind of low skill, but there's some skill in like certain heroes having skill like in positioning and stuff and not inting your ass off on Brigitte. And then some of the characters obviously take a higher sort of more important role in these compositions, like Zenyatta, for example. And I think that makes it a very unique sort of style, especially there's like different sort of play styles to play that comp compared to 2-2 style, right? Like a Zenyatta and a GOATS comp would play so differently than a Zenyatta in like a 2-2 style where like you're maybe like sniping with right clicks. No, with a GOATS comp, it's like you're more perma uptime, perma APM kind of the way I like to look at it. You're kind of always doing something. And in Marvel Rivals, to equate it back to this game for a lot of you playing it right now, it's kind of like looking at Adam Warlock triple comp or like res comps, compared to, maybe dive comps that are 2-2 style flank, just get some kills or whatever, right? Those comps are just different, like played differently. And there's also the reason why it's such a unique sort of game, and I think it's super fun to watch this game at a high level, is because a hero will play so differently depending on the comp they're with, right? Like I'm not sure what heroes in this game, it's a little bit harder to fully understand that. But like, for example, I guess if you wanted to use Adam Warlock or whatever, or these heroes, it's like playing in a 2-2 with an Adam Warlock, maybe just going for snipes across the map or on off angles, compared to playing, maybe just perma uptime, constantly trying to do damage, build ult, and then set up your res or whatever. Like, I think there's a lot of unique styles that can be played with these sort of unroll-locked games, and I think that heroes change differently based on the composition that they're in, obviously. So that was very unique, and I think the reason why I could talk about Overwatch more is because obviously I put it at a higher level than I did Marvel Rivals. In that game, it was like I said, Zenyatta. Some players like Jonak were really good at sniping with right clicks, but not so good in GOATS comps. They were a lot slower in GOATS comps because they try to play hard around Jonak, whereas teams like Shock would play fast, in your face, constantly doing damage with left clicks on Zenyatta, and that small, minute detail changed a lot in terms of how these individual teams played. And that's just one tiny cog in the overarching wheel, and that's why hero shooters, I think, are a really fun in unique genre to cover. But yeah, we'll talk about the next player, Karova. And like I said, I would talk about more about these guys, like overall. Fuck this fly, man. Jesus Christ, it's gonna happen the entire fucking podcast. Summer sucks. I would talk about more about these guys, like individual accolades and stuff, but I found I was like, that was taking so much fucking time to just like look up and write it down on each individual player. So I'm sorry for not going in depth on specific players and talking more about anecdotal stuff. So if you want more factual, like hardcore results, definitely open up Liquipedia for any one of these players. You'll find that there. Like, it's just straight up all of their Overwatch history is listed. And yeah, it's going to be super easy for you. So speaking of which, there's a player we'll talk about in Karova, who was a flex support player in Overwatch 1 and 2. I never played against him, didn't play in Overwatch League, was too young, I believe, at the time, but played on a few contenders teams with Rymazing and stuff, and they did well, I believe, in North American contenders for, I believe, Team Cryox, but seemed like a good player from everything I saw. Was a very aggressive support. I think that he kind of he maybe copied a little bit of my play style from Overwatch in that regard, which wasn't the best at all times. But I think he was a very good player at the time, and Overwatch was just too young, and that's kind of what we talk about with like a lot of these guys. They were just a little bit too young to make Overwatch League, and then never really made the right connections or whatever, and then brought it up. There was a lot of guys that kind of got snubbed from getting pushed up higher up faster due to not knowing the right guy, or maybe rubbing one or too many people the wrong way or something. It's as much as these games are meritocracies because you have to be good, it is still somewhat about connections and stuff, which can slow down your progress, and that's kind of the big thing. I always thought as a player, which is like try out for as many teams as you can, just be a good teammate, be a leader, be a talker, and it's going to be hard to be teamless because some teams will always need people who talk a lot and communicate a lot, and I think Karova does that for his teams, and is a good communicator. So I think that's crucial and always was a very important thing that I don't think enough players really keep track of. Like I think, for example, with Chuckles for Team SF NRG Shock, like I think he, for example, I think is having a problem because he doesn't talk a ton in practice and in scrims. But if he ups that, if it's hard to do it when I think you're younger because it's hard to really find your voice and be a talker unless your name is like, I don't know, Luca or something, who's just a fucking yap fester, which can kind of hold you back in some regard because maybe you say some controversial things, which we'll talk about with other players. But yeah, just be a talker. It's hard to develop it when you're younger for sure, though. I think a lot of guys when they're super young are really talented mechanically, but because they're like 14, 15, haven't developed socially, and that's understandable. I think for people that young to make mistakes on social media or whatever, if they get caught saying something crazy online when they were like 14, 15, 16, or 17, or even 18, like you're still a kid when you're that young, in my opinion. So yeah, that kind of used the Karova tangent to bounce into that tangent. And we're going to talk about another player right now, which is Mir, who was replacing Karova recently on Team Sentinels. But he was a flex player in Overwatch, played in Overwatch League for the Los Angeles Gladiators and I believe the Florida Mayhem. Interestingly, he played on all 3 different roles, tank, support, and DPS during the Rollock era. He's kind of like this jack of all trades sort of guy that I think was originally sort of made for... Who is the player again? Fuck, I want to remember... Not Saya player. I'm thinking about a guy. Shit, I gotta look it up. I should have looked this up beforehand. I think he was on NYXL. I'm gonna look it up. Buy time for me, somebody. I'm the only guy here, so it kind of works like this, where you're gonna see me stall for a while until I can fucking figure this out. Inevitably, it's Libero. Yes, there we go. I mean, some of you guys will know, some of you won't know, but it was basically this role of just like hard flex player, can play whatever. They could play Diva, Zarya, generally an ultra flex player, which is impressive in its own right. And I want to get that out the way early. I think it's impressive to be a flex player in that regard, to play basically everything, to understand the role at a high level. He'd probably be a very good coach, I think, if he did it. But he's just an overall, I think, mechanically solid player. And yeah, I just think it's impressive before I say the next thing, which is... I always thought when Mir gets subbed in, the other team is probably, most likely, almost most definitely going to lose. And that's not necessarily his fault. I think it's more so a sign that the team that subbed him in has lost confidence in X player, right? That's the worrisome fact, I think, for a lot of times Mir gets subbed in, is that he'll get subbed in whenever one of these players on their team just lost confidence, or the team lost confidence in them, and he's just playing because of that, because he just never loses confidence or something. I'm not sure. Mir, I don't know. I don't want to be too mean, obviously, but I think it's impressive what he's done to make a career for himself, and we'll kind of leave it at that. I think we'll leave it on a positive note and try to be positive in general about him, because I think it's cool and it's awesome to see him still around, a guy that's kind of one of the OGs. So yeah. Oh, buddy, this is going to get weird. It's going to get real weird now. Let's talk about Gale, okay? Let's talk about Gale. Gale Adelaide. I like to call him Gale Adeladini for no reason, other than I just thought it was funny, and I just like giving people stupid names for no reason. And he was a streamer in Overwatch mainly, never really competed. He had a lot of highlight plays. He was mainly known for playing Ana in Overwatch, which is interesting. They switched over to DPS in this game to play a lot of Punisher and stuff. But he was kind of like a TikTok, kind of like highlight play guy, had a pretty big following because of it, but never really played in Overwatch League. I think he probably could if he could. There's a lot of guys, he probably could if he tried. There's a lot of guys like that. Like, I think he was mechanically skilled, but he just like loved Ana a lot. Also got a lot of clout for playing Ana, so he never switched over. He probably could have. Like, genuinely, he probably could have. I mean, like, at the time, I was like, oh, this guy's probably nothing special. Like, he's shit at Ana. Like, people were hyping up too much. Like, he wasn't that good. Obviously, typical competitor stuff to, think you're better than everybody else. But in hindsight, like I said, I believe he was really mechanically skilled, and is kind of showing that in this game where, yeah, he's just a very mechanically skilled. He's playing, like, Punisher and stuff like that. And it's impressive that he switched over and is playing this game now at a decent level, even though his team was recently eliminated from the preseason. So yeah, shout out Gale, I guess. Guru. Guru was an off-tank player in Overwatch, didn't play in Overwatch League. I believe he's 30 now, right? He's an old man. But it's awesome to see him still around, straight up, right? And he was, I believe, on like a lot of collegiate teams. He was playing on like, I believe, Maryville and stuff. So he was on some top tier collegiate rosters for a bit. He's kind of always been around. He's figured out a way to kind of make money everywhere, which I can respect. Like the fact that you can get a college degree while competing in Overwatch and not being a Korean or top tier player is very impressive. So yeah, I think that he didn't really have like a notable career in Overwatch. But I think he was always like a solid tank player. Obviously, always top 500. That's the main thing I want to point out, that these guys are always going to be generally in top 500. Like there'll always be a ladder player at minimum. And it's like kind of those minute details that set you apart from other people. Like, for example, in this game, anecdotally, I could say about Guru is I scrimmed against him a lot, but I thought he was okay. I felt like he kind of always had a lot of tunnel problems. Like, I feel like tank is a very hard role because you can do so much because of your HP pool, obviously, and also because you're given so much utility and damage, that it's such a weird role to play, because it feels like sometimes you always want to fucking fly. Dude, this is going to be me looking like a freaking maniac just trying to kill his fly all the time. I feel like this is kind of the big thing in as tanks, and especially off tanks, is that you kind of need to figure out the right thing to do at all times. And even more so than like Zenyatta, for example, these tanks play differently based on the meta. And it's hard to play each meta on your hero at a very high level. And some of these guys get very tunnel vision no matter what. So I just thought, like, the problem with Guru is that he would, on D.Va, int a little bit too many times, go too aggressive, for example, for kills and stuff, even though he could play slower. On Zarya, maybe wasting bubbles and stuff a little bit too early and just trying to go for pure damage. I always thought he was more like a DPS player playing off tank, but didn't have, like, for example, like Space's mechanics to back it up. I think he was solid and was like serviceable, but I was never like really impressed when I played against Guru specifically. And yeah. I mean, I know I'm leaving it off a bit of a negative note. It's impressive that he's been around for so long and also has a good following on Twitch and stuff. So that's awesome. You know, I really wish nothing for success, but success for Guru. And I hope he does continue to do well on his new team on TSM. So, yeah, that's just my anecdotal thoughts from my experience playing against him. And it's going to be very specific, hyper-specific, individualistic experience, like I said. So if there's other people that have more experience with Guru, for example, maybe they could talk about it. Some pros or whatever, people that played against him, besides just me. This is obviously from a former flex support players in Overwatch perspective. And I think that matchup, the flex support versus off-tank matchup, was kind of under-talked about, as that was always like a big person cucking me all the time, was like an off-tank player in Overwatch. If I'm on Zenyatta, if I'm on Ana, like Zenyatta, maybe the Diva Matrix fucks up my right click, maybe he soaks a lot of the damage and gets out of his life, maybe flies away, annoys me at a certain time. When I'm playing Ana, he eats my Botic Grenade or my Sleep Dart or whatever, and that matchup was very important to me, for example, and that's why when we talk about like Space later, I'll bring up somebody else that is not involved in Marvel Rivals. But yeah. Okay, and that's kind of also why it's hard to tell how good a lot of these flex support players were, for example, because I think I had more experience either shooting the enemy Tracer player as a Zenyatta player or shooting the enemy Diva. Like, it was always, I'm looking at frontline. Like, you're never interacting with the other backline because they're on the other side of the map, right? So it's always tough to tell, you know, how good they really were unless you're actively watching their scrims and stuff and how they play the game, which a lot of times... I mean, it's bad to say, but obviously I was a bit of an egomaniac and I wasn't watching the people that I thought were worse than me. I'd be watching maybe Violet, maybe Jonak, and even then, I'd probably watch with a grain of salt because I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm better than this guy, but realistically I wasn't. I just kind of, you know, it's a competitor's mindset, I guess, maybe, is the way to look at it. I don't know if that's relatable. Which we'll get into the next guy, which is Cal. Flex support in Overwatch 1 and 2. He had a short stint on the LA Gladiators in 2023, but generally didn't have a ton to note from the Overwatch era, although he was a very high-level professional player in Overwatch for a bit. He was a solid flex support, really. He kind of reminds me of like the Luke Mino, the Pizzademon that we'll talk about later. Some of these guys that like kind of were good, but didn't really stand out to me too much. that's really about it. In Marvel Rivals, obviously, was fucking cracked. He was insane he had a few hella games that was crazy. But yeah, he was good. He was solid in Overwatch. Just didn't. I think he was too young at the time for me really to compete against him a ton. So I didn't get to see a lot of him. I think the only time I played against him when he was like fucking 16 or something. Which, goddamn, I'm getting old, becoming unk. Had a guy at a recent Marvel Rivals event. He's like, man, I watched you in your Overwatch League when I was 10. I was like, oh my god, I'm getting fucking old, dude. Cal, though, is a really good player, I think, when he has the motivation. And I think him switching back over to support will really do him a lot. It depends on how his team does, obviously. It's kind of interesting because I think he's trying to relearn the sort of flex or the support role because we don't really have a flex support in this game. In Marvel Rivals, you have to be a lot more flexible, I think, than you did have to in Overwatch, which is very unique to this game. But, yeah. I think Cal's a very unique fact in that he switched over to DPS off of support, kind of like Gale did, except now he's back over to strategist. So, very interesting. Pizzademon, next guy we'll talk about. Flex support in Overwatch. Didn't play in Overwatch League. I always thought he was a very solid player. He kind of just seemed unlucky to me, honestly. I mean, he was a bit older than Cal, too, so he kind of just felt like a player that was unlucky that never got the chances at the right time. I don't know if it's brand. It could be literally brand. Like, maybe I'm fucking pulling this... Fucking fly. Maybe I'm pulling this up out of my ass, but, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I know this is a hot take from a guy this is very ironic coming from a guy named Dogman, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to team with a guy named Pizzademon. Maybe that's the only reason why he didn't get more looks. Like, I'm genuinely curious because I feel like he was never that bad. He never mechanically stood out, but I think he should have got more shots than he did. Yeah, just seemed like an unlucky player that always gets scapegoated. So that's kind of my only takeaway from Pizzademon. I mean, obviously, when I played against him, I always thought I was better, but, you know, he should still have gotten more looks, no? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe the only reason why teams didn't sign him is because his name is Pizzademon. Pizzademon, maybe change your name. Maybe be Pineapple Demon or something, you know? Maybe Apple Demon. Ooh, Apple Demon would go hard, okay? Maybe be like the Pizza Samurai. No, I think Pizza First ruins the vibe. Maybe that's... I don't know. This feels too negative about Pizzademon. I think he was a good player, okay? I think he was a good player, just unlucky. But maybe go for a name change. It's too late, though, because I think he's like 27 or something, and usually guys don't fucking brand change this deep into their careers. And I would know it's not a good idea, considering I tried to become my fucking name for a bit. Okay, next guy. Let's talk about... this is going to be an interesting one, but I don't know if I actually have a lot to say about it. We're going to talk about Mace. All right, Mace was a Brigitte one-trick back in Overwatch. Never played in Overwatch League. Never really played in any tournaments of note that I could tell on Wikipedia. Yeah, he was a Brig one-trick called Mace to the Face in Overwatch. I think he got a lot of clout by doing that. I always thought he was just fucking crazy. I'm like, why the hell would you play Brigitte 24 hours a day? This just feels like pure fucking boredom. I don't know, man. Maybe I care too much about aim. Probably. I thought a character that just couldn't aim was a support and just didn't do much except proc heal with your left click passive and sometimes bash people and sometimes flail them away. Like, I just felt like such a boring fucking hero, like Moira. Like, I'm just like, I am surprised somebody is actually willing to sit here playing Brigitte all day. I saw a comment recently on Reddit saying that people think I hate Mace. No, okay, that's not true. Obviously, when I played with him, I would assume I'd probably lose the game, but that's only because he's playing Brigitte. Like, it's not even his fault. He's probably a good player. He's just playing fucking Brigitte all day. Like, I can't tell how good he is. He's playing a meme character. I think if I remember right, he actually got kind of big on social media because he played a lot with Sleepy and stuff. Because he's funny, and he is kind of a funny guy. He's got a very good personality. I think he's hilarious. But yeah, I don't hate him because he played Brigitte, or maybe I do. Maybe I'm lying to you guys. Actually, maybe there's some deep-rooted hatred. The reason why I called him out for feeding and dying a lot was because he played Brigitte in Overwatch in 2019, guys. Maybe that's really true, and maybe you're not insane. Maybe I'm actually the insane one. And maybe I really hate Mace. Fuck you, Mace. I hate that guy. Gonna call him a feeder every cast from now on. That's a joke, guys. Okay, I was told to stop touching my mic stand. Anyway, no, I don't hate Mace. I think he's a good player in this game, actually. Yeah. Amadian. Amadian was a DPS player in Overwatch. I believe he was playing for Swamp Gaming recently. He's a sub for them, gets subbed in every now and again. I think he's a very good hit scan player in this game, actually. One of the best hit scans in this game. His aim is incredible and stuff. But in Overwatch, he didn't play in Overwatch League. He had some like tier 2, tier 3 results. Was like kind of a tracer player. Tracer, I don't want to say one trick, but that's kind of what I would think of these guys back at the time. He's like kind of a tracer one trick. I think he was solid. He was solid. But like I said, it was very hard, I think, to stand out for a lot of these tier 3 stuck guys playing tracer, playing a lot of these things, unless they were like a prodigy or something. Which I don't think I thought of Amadian as a prodigy at the time. It's very hard to compete. Now in Marvel Rivals, I think his hella looked crazy as shit, and his aim looked nice from everything I've seen in this game. But in Overwatch, he just didn't really stand out, and that's kind of like a tough aspect for being a North American player that specifically plays DPS in Overwatch, because I feel like a lot of these guys were overlooked for a Korean talent because it was easier to pick up a young Korean prod that played well in Apex or whatever it was at the time, and you'd be like, oh okay, that's going to be more consistent than picking up an NA talent, NA player. Also, a lot of these guys had money. A lot of these teams had a lot of money at the time to just pay for a translator, pay to bring them over, a crazy salary. So, like, Overwatch League teams were just spending up the wazoo for a lot of these Korean talents that I don't think would happen in the modern era where there's not as much money to go around. So, yeah. Very solid player, but obviously never had his chance in Overwatch League. Which another guys like that is Jitward. DPS player in Overwatch, literally doesn't have anything in Overwatch is like history. Maybe he had a name change or something. I might have been too young at the time. Maybe he'll say more in the comments or whatever. But he told me he played against a lot of tier 3 teams in Overwatch and tier 2 teams and was kind of hard stuck getting spawn camped by Sugar Free and Speedily and those guys for a while. Apparently that's how he told me, yeah, we lost, got their playstyle, was because he used to get spawn camped by Sugar Free and they touched the spawn door for like 6 months straight in scrims versus them. First of all, I don't know how you would keep playing scrims against a team that spawn camps you for that long. I feel like you get blacklisted by that point. Maybe they did. But also sometimes you run out of teams to play against if you're really good. So that maybe was the case. Who knows? Regardless, he told me that was the reason why Yeah We Lost plays such a weird, unorthodox playstyle in this game in spawn camp TSM for 5 minutes. I'm going to bring it up again. 5 minutes. They spawn camped for 5 minutes. That was fucking crazy. And he said it was because they got spawn camped by Sugar Free in that game forever, who was another former teammate of mine, Lenny. So yeah, cool. Awesome to see that the old players like Sugar Free, which is weird to say now because he was like 14 when I was competing, gave inspiration to Jitward, who is now a Spider-Man player in Marvel Rivals. Domino effect be domino affecting. I don't know. Like, things are weird, dude. Time is odd, and it's cool to see that things like that happen and inspire everybody. This fly is gonna fucking make me lose my mind. This entire video is gonna be like a 2-hour-long video of me trying to kill. It's not even a fly. It's like a gnat. It's smaller than a fly, and I can't kill it. These things are supposed to be easy to kill. Jesus Christ, I am washed up. Renko was a flex support in Overwatch 1 and 2, and yes, I am just going to use this fly as a segue talking point into other players. Didn't really play against him much. I think he might have been too young, but he played for the San Francisco Shock in 2023 before the Overwatch League collapsed. In general, this fucking fly seemed like a decent player, but didn't really stand out. Another one of these flex support players that kind of had to play everything. There was like an era, I think, where a lot of flex support players in Overwatch had to play a lot of Lucio and stuff. I skipped out on the era because I became a caster after retired in like 2021. So maybe I would have had to play Lucio again. So I think he like did a lot of that flexing, which is, it's ironic because flex support was not very flexible. It's like flex support players played like Ana, Zenyatta, and that was it. Sometimes Mercy, I guess, if like the meta was like important for Mercy or something. But yeah, he actually did a lot of the flexing part of flex supporting. And that's interesting. I wonder what ideas you guys have for like role names. But this game doesn't really have roles because of the ban phase and because everybody's flexing so much. So it's almost like everybody in Marvel Rivals is a flex player. Unless they're... I really only think certain players are maybe like one tricks. It's more... Fucking fly, dude. I'm going to fucking tilt. I should honestly delete this video because of this. I hope this is somewhat entertaining to watch me get attacked by this thing. You probably can't even see it in the camera. But he seemed like a decent player, just didn't stand out too much to me. but maybe that's because I didn't compete. Also, I was casting European contenders at the time with Moxie. Got Moxie, that is, not Moxie the streamer, which we'll talk about later, I guess, if that comes up. Actually, I don't think I wrote down Moxie. Did I not write down Moxie? We'll talk about him real quick. I feel like I want to, since we're bringing up streamers in a sec, that's the next talking point, is now a lot of the North American guys we'll mention are streamers. We'll talk about some streamers that were good in Overwatch, but have some different sort of segue talking points, right? So let's talk about Moxie, all right? I didn't take any notes on him because I was gonna, but I didn't. Sorry, Moxie. He was a Hanzo one trick. He was a Hanzo one trick. There we go. That's my take on Moxie. Please clap. He I don't know, man. Like, there's not much to say about him. I think he was a good Hanzo player. He was kind of crazy on it. But it's kind of like the Mace situation, which is like, who in their right mind would just fucking one-trick Hanzo all day? Like, are you clinically insane? Also, I hated Hanzo mains. Hanzo was like the most unskillful character in Overwatch because he could just one-shot you across the map with a fucking log. He had the most broken abilities with a scatter arrow just killing you around a wall. I didn't have a problem with scatter arrow. Scatter arrow was fine. It was the fact that he could just... and then it would take a few seconds and then fucking hit you in the head and you just die as Zenyatta. And I was like, okay, great. That's great. I really could do a lot. Because at least if I was playing against the Widowmaker, I'd be like, okay, this guy had a hit scan. He point and clicked on me. I was out in the open or something. Understandable. Have a nice day. I got outskilled. If I'm against Hanzo, bro can just be chucking logs. He doesn't have to give a fuck, and he might get a kill if I happen to peek at the right angle at the right time. That character was so fucking stupid, and Blizzard should fucking feel bad about having it ever exist. I hated Hanzo mains. Fuck that character. Unless I had a good Hanzo main on my team, then I love that character. Okay? That's my rant about one-shot characters. I hate it until I have one of them on my team. It's probably the same thing in this game if you have a Hawkeye player. I fucking hate Hawkeye, but if there's a good Hawkeye on my team, all right, don't nerf the character, all right? Become my duo partner, all right? And then you're going to feed your ass off some games, and then I'm going to block you because I don't want to play with a one-trick anymore. That's how I feel about Moxie. I think it's funny, the Luka Doncic situation that happened a long time ago. That's a classic. It's a hit classic. I wish we had like more. I want to see that, like, ChatGPT, please refine this footage for me so I can see it in full fucking 4K. Because I think the one video about Moxie interacting with Luka Doncic on Zarya on what was the map? Fuck, it was I don't remember the map. My brain is slow. Regardless, he was like playing with Luka Doncic, and it was the most awkward conversation for like 25 minutes. And I'm like, man, I would love this footage if it wasn't in 480p. Like, please, somebody, like, reforge this, refine it or something. You know, we need to get the Moxie X Luka Doncic brought to modern light, which it's crazy that Luka Doncic even played Overwatch at a decent level, considering he had played so much fucking basketball. It's very impressive. People always act like he was a really good player, though. No. There's a lot of players. It's very easy to get carried in top of 100 in Overwatch 2. Just like you'll see a lot of guys get carried in top of 100 that probably don't deserve it in Marvel Rivals. Happens if they duo with the right pro or whatever, because duoing is really strong if you are a very good player. And you can carry solid players into high MMR. I don't even want to say a few names. I mean, there's been like some streamers that got into top 10 because they duoed with like some really good pro players. And they're like, man, look how good I am. I was like, no, they carried you for the clout. You're not a top 10 player, and you never will be. And I'm sorry, you're just not that fucking good. You're just not that good. It's cool. It's a for fun thing. It's for the public, you know. It's cool for their fans to see. Oh my god, my streamer, they got top 10 in Marvel Rivals. But I mean, ladder doesn't really matter, guys. I don't know what to say. I mean, results in tournaments matter. Ladder can be indicative of a good player, especially if you have the stats to back it up. But yeah, you can have a bad player get carried to top 100, even top 10, or a bad, in my opinion. Sorry, like a bad player, in my opinion, is probably still a celestial 3-player or plus or whatever. Like, I mean, there could be bad players in Eternity that are shit, in my opinion, right? So it's like, a bad player to you guys could mean so many different things, considering what rank you are in. But yeah, off topic. That's my rant about Moxie, I guess. Let's talk about the next guy, which I'm sure. Oh God, I don't want to gas this guy up too much. Oh my God, this fucking guy. We'll talk about Space, okay? We'll talk about Space. The few things I'll say about Space, we'll talk about some real hard evidence. He was a off-tank player in Overwatch League. He played in Overwatch 1. I don't think he played Overwatch 2, right? I could be wrong about that, but yeah, he played Overwatch 1, played for the Los Angeles Valiant, and then the Gladiators. He was one of the best, if not the best, Western off-tank in Overwatch, probably of all time. Probably all, besides Hawk, he probably was the best. I don't think there's much evidence to dispute that. He was really fucking good. I don't know what to tell you, man. He was really fucking good. He was hyped up as a prodigy. I think he was benched early days, which we'll talk about a player on the same team as him. But he wasn't old enough to play in Overwatch League, kind of like Sinatraa was early days, and then eventually came in for Envy and just fucking dominated, bro. He was good. He was that guy. Nothing to say. I don't think I struggled versus him a lot, but you could tell he was a really good player because obviously, like I said, that Diva Zenyatta matchup matters a lot. I always had more problems with Poco on Team Philly Fusion, because Poco was for some reason a god at eating anti-grenades when it was an anti-meta. For some reason, I would chuck a nade and this fucking Frenchman would just be not looking at me for a second, and then he would do that cute little flick thing to fucking eat your biotic grenade, and I was like, how the fuck did he do that? How did he? I fucking hate Poco because that guy was the most annoying diva to play against. I think Space was a better player. Probably inarguably, but for some reason in anti-meta, Poco just had my fucking number, and I hated that guy. So Space didn't hate as much because he didn't eat my anti-nades that much. He was probably doing something else. You have a lot to do on tank, and not every meta is a good meta for you. Depending on the like I said, like comparing if we're bringing up Jonak and Violet, they were both good at Zenyatta in different ways. Good at sniping people across map, good at just having constant uptick of damage. Space probably was like that. Space is more like the guy that has constant uptick of damage, but Poco would just say "fuck you, dogman." So that's the only real argument for him in that meta. And Space was that guy. Space was that guy. I won't say anything else about him. All right. He was that guy. He retired too young. He was gone too early. Rest in peace. He's dead now. J3. He's dead to me now because we're going to talk about J3, who was a DPS player in Overwatch. By the way, if you're wondering, I will get to the European players. I wanted to talk about them second. So I'm sorry. I still have a lot to say about them, so I hope this video doesn't last too fucking long. How long has it been already? Oh, God, it's been an hour. He was not in Overwatch League, but he had a good career, solid career. Played for for Team Renegades for a bit, I believe. And people don't give enough credit. He was very talented at McCree, now known as Cassidy, and Widowmaker. He was a really good aimer. People don't give him enough credit probably because he kind of takes a lot of punches. He's really good at taking punches. He's just the guy that lets people make fun of him because it's funny. And then J3 has a bug on you meme came out of it. He's a fun guy. He's a nice dude. I just he's a positive figure in the scene. One of the nicest guys I know. And people don't give enough credit for how good he was as a professional player. That's kind of what I'll talk about. I'm going to talk about more of these guys' careers rather than how they are personally and their actual how they are as people, because some of these guys we'll talk about later eventually have drama and controversy. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about how they played as a player. You can think about everything they want to think as a person. For example, at J3, he was a really good person, but as a player, people don't give him credit because of that almost. He became famous by duoing with Tim the Tatman, another player I talked about getting to high rank because he duoed with somebody else. That's what happened. J3 duoed with Tim the Tatman, was funny as fuck, carried Tim the Fat Man into high MMR. I mean, Tim was okay, but maybe, I think Tim, if he were to solo queue, probably, random dig at Tim, I'm sorry, but he might have, he was solid. He was solid. I think Tim thinks he's a lot better than he was. He was honestly, I think it's a stretch maybe even to say he probably is peak low masters without a duo. Is that too much to say? Is that a hot take? J3 probably carried his ass so many games, and just for that alone, you must have iron mental. Like, that's insane iron mental to have so many meme games where Reinhardt just shatters on you to say there's a bug on you, and to play with Tim the Tap Man. He's funny as fuck. I would also want to play with a guy who's shit if he's funny. So fair play. And like I said, my version of shit probably very different than your version of shit, guys. Okay, this is yours is like probably a small pile of shit. Mine's like a big pile of shit. Okay, don't equate our shit levels. J3 was not shit, though. Okay, people don't give him a credit for playing on Team Renegades, moving to, I think, a team house and shit in Detroit or whatever. And that's probably wrong. Like, it probably wasn't even Detroit. It's probably like Chicago or something. And yeah, he was a very talented player. I think he only retired. He was formerly known as Jesus. He only retired because he made more money streaming, and he's had a very successful career. So I'm very happy for that guy. And we'll talk about, oh God. Let's talk about somebody else controversial a little bit here. Let's going to keep this strictly gameplay only, like I said. We'll talk about Sinatraa. We're going to do a quick gloss over. All right, don't want to create a lot of drama here. Just trying to quickly skeet around this thing, move around this thing. He was probably like the best, he's probably the best Western player of all time in Overwatch, and probably had the highest peak out of anybody, in my opinion, in Overwatch. Like, he was fucking Thanos, guys. Like, I hate using that zoomer-ass term. He was Thanos. He was Thanos. Like, he was kind of the best Doomfist player in 2019, and it wasn't close. Like, anybody could have been on Team USA, and they probably would have won the fucking World Cup. They won SF Shock, the Overwatch League. They won Team USA, their only World Cup in Overwatch, with him on a Doomfist. Like, he was insane on Zarya, and he was insane on Doomfist, and just speaking in terms of gameplay, like, that guy, he's just the greatest player. Like, he just really is. On Tracer, he was good, but I don't think he was as good as, like, the other, like, really good Tracer players, like Striker and stuff. I think he was up there, but probably not as good. I remember him complaining about never having Harmony Orb with Raucus on Team USA when they lost another year, which for some reason they brought Raucus back instead of me for Team USA, which I'm still fucking pissed about, by the way. Still upset at this fucking fly flying around, but also because they didn't pick me up for Team USA and say they picked up Raucus because he was a vibes guy or something. And he also knew the coach back when he played on Team FNFRGFE or whatever it was. So unlucky for me. I could have got carried by Sinatraa in space to a Team fucking USA win, because holy shit, that guy was just Timothy on Doomfist, and there's nothing you could do when fucking Sinatraa and Super dive with a Doomfist and a Winston on your ass. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Nothing else to say except he was gross. Coluge, another player from the Overwatch 2 Overwatch era. He's actually a lot younger than I thought he was. He's only 26. I thought he was way older than that. Everyone calls him Unk, but he's like actually not old. Like maybe old for Overwatch League esports, Overwatch esports, or Marvel Rivals esports age, I guess. But I mean, half of Team VP is over 30. Like, I feel like that's old, no? Like, very different. Very different. He's now back in Overwatch, actually. Came to Marvel Rivals, made a paycheck, went back to Overwatch. Not having a good time back in Overwatch. It's pretty hard to adjust, I guess, for him. But every time I played against him in Overwatch, he was a decent player, I thought. He played on Team Goats with Gator. With Jayta. Make sure to call him Jayta, please. Although he's not even in the scene. I wish Gator streamed more. Dude, this is just going to be a Gator rant. Like, Coluge just reminds me of Gator, and then now I want Gator to become a streamer because he's fucking hilarious. That guy's awesome. But Coluge is more of a soft-spoken guy. I think he's always good when he has motivation and plays the game a lot. But he never really stood out to me. I always thought, like, kind of Hawk was better than him and stuff. But he was a serviceable player. I think he's been solid. He like I said, he played for Shock in Overwatch League and, had a career. He had a career, and I think in this game he was also very good. At Marvel Rivals, he was also a very good player. So, yeah, I can't really say too many bad things about Coluge. I feel like he was a pretty good tank player. Oh, God. Why did I write this down? I have some. This is the last North American guy we'll talk about, just because I figured it would be funny to add it. Oh, God. We'll talk about Flats. Okay? Flats never competed in Overwatch, but was decently high ranked. The thing with Flats is that I think he kind of exploded in popularity in Overwatch 2. When there was like an exodus of content creators, he kind of stuck around and like made these like, easy to digest videos about tier listing and stuff. which fair play to him, honestly. Huge move and smart move out of him. Huge respect to do something like that and to kind of capitalize off the moment. Solid career as a content creator. Never competed as a top level player. I don't know if he ever had the drive to, but to be honest, I don't think he ever could have. That's probably a bit harsh to say, and I know that hopefully he doesn't watch this to take a hit to the ego, because I do love the guy. I just don't think he ever was talented enough to compete as a pro in the game. That's all. That's all it is. Like, I feel like guys like Gale, like I maybe could see them. I don't think I could have ever seen Flats as a pro player. That's about that. I think he's done great as a content creator. I think he still gets consistently top of 100. I don't know if he duos for it, but that's what I was saying. Like, sometimes it's a small thing, but like genuinely being able to get to top 500 without a duo is kind of important. He probably did that. So if he did, huge shout out to him. I just never saw it, I guess, at the current time. Okay. Some of you guys are like, why the fuck did you say fuck me for when I talk about Flats? Sorry, Flats. Let's talk about European talent now. Let's talk about some of the guys in Europe, which that I had a little bit of experience with. I took notes. This is when I was like taking notes on like, oh my God, I could like talk about these guys' histories. Like SparkR, for example, played on British Hurricane and London Spitfire and Overwatch League from 2021 to 2023. He had a pretty solid finish in the 2022 playoffs, finishing 5th through 6th, but Overwatch League, solid player, wasn't really a standout against a lot of the Korean talent and contenders, though. Pre-Overwatch League, he was pretty dominant when he was a kid, when he was young, up and coming. Like, he had multiple contenders tiles under the British Hurricane banner. He was a really good player for them. So, yeah, he made like $150,000 in that game from just prize alone. That's not even including salary from the team. He probably made a good amount of money. Still very good in this game, too, as he's on Team VP, who just won the grand finals. So, fucking god-tier player right now. Figured out the play style, plays for the team, has very good target focus with the squad, so he's very good synergy with the rest of the team, which is important. Not just mechanical skill, but also the cohesion that you only build up from playing with people for a long time, and that's probably the reason why VP are so good. So, yeah, he was very good when I played against him in the small amount of time I did. But he, like I said, about a lot of other people, couldn't stand out against the Koreans. What do you say about that? Unless your name's Sinatraa, I guess. Like, it's pretty much impossible to stand out against the Korean talent because of how fucking good they were in that game. Not so much in Marvel Rivals. They're getting shit on in this game, which it's very interesting to see in that regard. But yeah, he played in Nero after retired. Watched a little bit of him in Overwatch Contenders a bit, but he's transitioned to Marvel Rivals and has been very good, obviously, since. Pretty dominant since then. Except that one slip-up, I guess, where they didn't make the mid-season. So, yeah. Really the only guy, I think, in this roster, some of the older guys I could talk about because I had experience with them as players, and that's why you'll hear me talk about these guys a little bit more, but it is getting a little bit longer into the video, and also I'm getting nice and hot because it's summer. And for some reason, it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit in summer in Arizona. Oh, kill me. Sypeh. He mainly played DPS in Overwatch and then switched to support Overwatch 2. Didn't really play in Overwatch League, though, obviously. Was on a bunch of different EU contenders teams when he joined, in the Overwatch Championship Series in 2024. That happened. But I have more relations with Sypeh back when he was a Genji main, back in the early days in Overwatch, when he was on my team for the North American Contender Squad, Citizen 7. I was making a squad full of like very young talent that was not looked at. Like, I think we had Piba Mitsu, like 17-year-old kid that was going to college. I tried to pick up like a bunch of college guys that were not looked at, and then also young talent that wasn't seen in the scene. And he joined my team in Team Citizen 7, where we qualified for the winter premiere, the Overwatch winter premiere, over teams like FaZe Clan, who had like Too Easy and shit, which was exciting. It was awesome. But then we made the group stages where we went 0-7 and became known as Citizen 0 and 7. Not optimal. But the fact that we had a bunch of unknown talent and people from nowhere, and I was like off-rolling to fucking Lucio because I couldn't find a team at the time after trialing for Immortals. I thought it was impressive. All right? I thought it was impressive. We did go 0-7 though, which is notable. But I was on Lucio, and Sypeh was a god on Genji. Really one of the most mechanically skilled players on Genji that I known. And he did that thing I told you guys about. He switched back over to support and has done well in this game. Really fucking well. A lot of these mechanically skilled players that play DPS, if they put the ego aside, put a few months of time into practice and learning, guarantee you they'll pop off. Like, I bet you if you're on like a top team right now or like a top MRC squad and you're like, man, we need to pick up a good strat player. Let's like try to throw the bag at like a DPS player and have them transition and hope they fucking make the transition well, because really a lot of those guys have incredible mechanical skills. That's what like I did originally. I switched from a lot of McCree over to support because there was no DPS roles at the time. All the teams are full. And a lot of these DPS players, especially duelist players and Marvel Rivals, would rather play on some shit team and then like not get anywhere. But because they want to play DPS, they're going to stick in the gutter. Like, it's a longer grind, I think, for DPS and duelist players to get to the highest level, even if you're really good. Like I said, you really have to stand out as a duelist player, and it's very hard, I think, to stand out compared to a support player. However, it's hard to stand out as a support when a lot of the supports play like heal bots. So I definitely have a lot of sort of sympathy for those guys doing that, but it's still a good play. Like, I feel like a lot of squads could easily just upgrade. Like, we have Millennium and 100 Thieves going from a support to a DPS, or going from a DPS player and transitioning into a support. They'll probably pick it up eventually. And if they don't, that's unfortunate, but I think a lot of them can. We'll talk about Fi. Fi was a DPS player in Overwatch 2, did not play in Overwatch League, but he was on a very good European contenders team throughout the Overwatch League era. He was on very good ones, finishing second a lot of times in EU and stuff. Played in the Overwatch Championship Series with Team SRP Czech, getting 5th through 6th a few times before switching over to Rivals. He was a really good May player in Overwatch, from what I remember. I mean, I casted him a lot in the Overwatch Contender Series in A-sides. He was like, I think he was playing with LH Cloudy and stuff, so he was playing a lot of these like kind of cheesy Reinhardt teams back when he was on SRP Czech. So, yeah, I think he was a good player, had to really do a lot of the dirty work like he does now, and I think that set him up for success because he kind of does a lot of those things you don't expect out of a player. And he probably, I think just from an overall character standpoint, people don't talk about him enough, just because of the fact that Fi has switched to heroes that nobody else really wants to play, because he's just that he'll pick it up, he'll learn him, whatever. Like, if I wanted to switch to support, he probably could. Like, if I wanted to switch to tank, he probably could. Like, this guy does everything, and I think that is a very underrated talent that is, I think, not as hard to come by in Marvel Rivals specifically, because everybody kind of has to do it, but it's a very valuable skill set that, you know, even some signed teams lack, like including TSM, for example, getting 2 of these like hit scan players. Somebody like Fi could just fix that roster immediately, for example, right? So, yeah, maybe people will try to poach Fi in the future. Who knows? That would be a good pickup, I think, for teams, considering he's also probably not as expensive as SparkR, too. So, yeah. Fucking fly's back. I think I got it. It's dead. The fly is dead. That only took an hour and a half. Nevix was an off-tank back in Overwatch 1, played in the early Overwatch League days, so also back pre-Overwatch League. He's an old man now, even older than me. Back for the San Francisco Shock and the Toronto Defiant. Kind of rode the bench alongside Super while Shock won Season 2 with Choi and Smurf in that roster. So he was kind of just there temporarily while he got subbed out for Choi in the Korean Prodigy in that squad. So he didn't really have kind of notable appearances in Overwatch. But yeah, he won a lot of tournaments and overall was like on top EU teams pre-Overwatch League on Team Misfits. He earned like over $200,000 in just prize pool alone, and then from salary, because I think they split that evenly when they won Overwatch League with like the $1 million prize pool. So he made his money in Overwatch, even though he wasn't like the most talented player in that game. Considering, I don't know, whenever I thought I played against Nevix, I thought he was like, okay. I thought he was generally like a little bit too aggressive on D.Va and stuff and on Zarya. I never thought he was like shit, but he never stood out, I guess. Like, he was always serviceable. And I think that was probably his career in Overwatch. Maybe that's a bit harsh. I think it's a bit more positive of a spin than I've said about other people, though. So, yeah, I don't know. I saw like a comment. Somebody said I'm a little bit too negative in general, and I probably am. I do talk a lot of shit. But I mean, you could bring up my career too if you want stuff. I don't think I'm gonna go into myself. Maybe at the very end we could talk about fucking my notable shit, but I don't want to really. Finnsi, another guy from Overwatch 1, was an off tank, another older guy. Played in Overwatch League for the Valiant and the Paris Eternal. It's unfortunate because he played when Space was on the roster. So this team, if I remember right, was like trying to buy time for Space to become of age. And I don't think he even played. I think Envy, their other Korean player, was, or another Korean player on the roster, was playing for them back then instead of Finnsi. So it was kind of tough. But he played eventually on the Paris Eternal for them during the GOATS meta on Diva, where, he ended up placing 14th and missing the playoffs with them. Like, that Paris Eternal team was super hyped up because they started off doing well early. And then, just didn't have a lot of Overwatch League success. And I thought he was okay. Like I said, a very aggressive player. I would have teamed with him if I didn't have like any other choices. Like if I didn't have Hawk on my team, for example, on the Atlanta Reign. If I didn't have Dawko, who was actually very good. He probably would have been better than Fried, but better than FRD. Who knows? I think I even tried to shout out FRD when Dawko was having his issues for the Atlanta Reign during that time. So Finnsi was like a solid player. Just hard to stand out, I think, in that role, unless you're a prodigy like Space, for example. Or Korean. It's just that's the overarching notes you'll see about basically every role in Overwatch is that, I guess except for main supports maybe a little bit, but unless you were Korean, very, very hard to get on a team. Yeah. But eventually, after Overwatch League, he joined Team Doge and won NA Contenders in 2020. He joined the British Hurricane and won EU Contenders in June, too. So he was having good success in EU, and I think a lot of these guys did when they were relegated out of Overwatch League. Like, when nobody else wanted to pick them up, they went back to Europe, and they went to do good in Europe. Like, the European region was a lot better than people gave it credit for in Overwatch, and you're seeing that obviously in Marvel Rivals, where we're getting a lot of that ex-Overwatch talent that is just fucking killing it in this game, and probably will continue to kill it just because European talent, very good. I mean, I would love to be biased towards North America, but generally I'm not because I casted Overwatch Europe, not North American Overwatch, for like ever with Moxie for like 2 to 3 years while I was blacklisted out of casting Overwatch League because all the casters hated me. All the casters hated me for playing for my playing days when I talk shit about the casters and stuff, which is totally normal. Like, I think it's impressive that Finnsi's come over to this game and had a crazy amount of success due to the fact that he was probably underlooked at in Overwatch, and you kind of have only one shot, sadly, when you make it to the big league, and he unfortunately did not continue. So yeah, Dridro was a main support in Overwatch 1 and 2. He was mainly a Lucio player, mainly Mercy. Started playing very high-level Overwatch in 2017 for Team Oompa Loompas when he was age 14. So this guy, another guy, started grinding when he was super young. Was an up-and-coming French prodigy. Everyone's like, when's he going to come in and take over? So he joined, I believe, Overwatch League in 2021. For the Eternal, right? But they ended 12th in the regular season, sadly, and were out of the play-ins versus the Justice. So kind of tough showing for him in Overwatch League. He earned about $15,000 in total prize winnings plus salary, and then he kind of disappeared, though. Like, if I remember right, he kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth, but was a very aggressive Lucio player. I think that was the main talking point for him, kind of like Masa, but even more aggressive. Kind of like Cruz a little bit in that regard. He was just a very aggressive Lucio player, very talented. And kind of my note about Lucio more so than just Dridro is Lucio was like a character where you can kind of do everything on, but the optimal playstyle was almost to not do everything most of the time, unless you were in like a specific meta where dive Lucio was good. Usually Lucio was like a character you wanted to play slow, speed boost the team, try not to do too much, try not to feed, get your ult off and stuff. But then there was a lot of these Lucio guys that would just fucking fly off the wall, do crazy Reddit Lucio shit, and you're like, whoa, that's so impressive, dude. And some of them kind of took it a little too far and just were too aggressive, and maybe they would have benefited from playing slower a few times, right? Dridro is kind of one of those guys, I feel like. I feel like he would have benefited from slowing it down a little bit in Overwatch. But in this game, flexing to a lot of other things, he's been great. So, yeah, the fact that Dridro's played this game to such a high level is very impressive. And he also doesn't get enough shouts for sure. Now, let's talk about a player that I think I have a little more experience with in Overwatch 2 or Overwatch 1, which was EQO, which is the coach of Team Virtus Pro. Nobody talks about him a lot in this game either, but he was a DPS player in Overwatch 1, most notably got second place with the Philadelphia Fusion in Overwatch League Season 1, played in the grand finals at the Barclays Center, guys, in the inaugural season. If you guys remember the whole DJ Khaled, and then he fucking did his weird dance on the stage, that was when when EQO played the game. So, I mean, we're dinosaurs now, apparently, for talking about that, but he earned about $65,000 in overall prize winnings, not including just salary, and was very good. I think he was a really good player. Also, oddly enough, weird callback, but in Overwatch League Season 1, in that grand finals, in the inaugural season grand finals at the Barclays Center, that was a best out of 5, best out of 3. Now, let me elaborate. They played the first to 3, so the first to 3 maps would win the game, right? And I think they lost to the Spitfire, who was an all-Korean team at the time before Cloud9 got poor and budget mode and cut everybody. They lost 3-1 in the first day, but guess what? Best out of 3 out of days. So this would have been a 3-day event at the Barclays Center with 11,000 people in attendance. It was a fucking crazy audience with that many people there, which honestly I think Marvel Rivals could get there if we were to like market the game as more of like a Marvel game and stuff, and to get the kids involved. And maybe that's why people like me will get phased out, because this game is a very kid-friendly game, and I think Marvel Rivals is a sick game in that regard, that it can attract so many people that love superheroes and stuff, right? So, but it was very interesting, the Barclays Center, to go back. Sorry, I got off tangent a little bit. I have in esports like multiple day events for just one series never happens, and they stopped doing it after this because it was just kind of weird. Because the first it was if this game was closer, so maybe EQ is part of the problem. If this game was closer, then maybe we would have had like multiple day events versus like the top team versus the second best team or whatever, where it wasn't just one day and we're done. Because I think if you want a fair matchup, like talking about NBA, baseball, and those sort of things, they have like best out of 7 days events to really see who the best team is, and that'd be awesome if we had it. But those are very expensive to kind of run, I guess, and just not feasible. I think it'd be sick if we could bring that back, even because you really get to see the best team over the course of a couple days. Now, the only problem was, like I said, first game was 3-1. Second game was 3-0. So they just got fucking spanked, and everybody was bored out of their minds. They're like, man, this sucks. We should never do this again. So EQO, if your team just played better, dude, maybe we would actually have like multiple day events in esports. But because of that event, nobody's fucking doing that shit again because it was too boring. So fuck you, EQO. Just kidding. EQO is really good, actually. That's kind of the main point I want to bring up, because I think I could talk about how he was as a player. He was a very mechanically skilled player, kind of like Fi. He had that, I play Mei like Fi, I play Genji, I do what the team needs, and I'm going to do it at a high level. Like, he was genuinely very mechanically skilled. Another player that like doesn't get enough praise for his playing career. And like again, like I think season 1 he wasn't even an all-star. I think it was only Carpe, which was really good. Don't get me wrong, but EQO was really good, bro. Like, that guy was good. Like, he was really good. One of the best, if not the best, Western DPS besides like Sinatraa and stuff. He was that guy. He was very good. And if anything, I just want to stress that really, that a lot of these European players, and especially like people like EQO and stuff, were really good. And we'll talk about another one in Naga after I take a sip of water, because I'm dying and this video's gone on too long and I'm sweating through my black shirt. You just can't see it because luckily I'm wearing a black t-shirt that hides that shit. All right. Naga was a DPS in Overwatch 1 and 2. Played in Overwatch League for the Paris Eternal in Overwatch League Season 1, or season in that season, in 2021 through 2022. I'm rambling a bit more. Didn't really have any deep playoff runs in Overwatch League. In contenders, he was extremely successful. Played on the British Hurricane during the dominant era and won multiple European titles. Represented also Team Denmark in the Overwatch World Cup. Earned about $40,000 total in prize winnings. Overall, Naga in Overwatch League never really impressed me, never really stood out. I thought he was a very bad player in Overwatch League. But this is like I said earlier, this can't be understated that, when these guys make the transition back to Europe, they start to look good. Like in Europe, he was actually very, very good and was like kind of that, I play everything, I play a lot of dirty shit, and I carry my team in some individual regard. And I think Naga earned a lot of respect out of me playing in European contenders. Like, if I just only saw his Overwatch League career and how he got shit on by Koreans, then, okay, maybe I'd be like, damn, this guy sucks. But realistically, when he went over to Europe, when he went now into this game and Marvel Rivals, he's had a very good career in this game, and it's impressive. I think he is a very mechanically skilled player. His flexibility is now being shown a lot more in this game. I feel like Marvel Rivals benefits a lot of these duelist players that have the flexibility, because this game encourages flexibility with the ban phase and stuff. The ban phase really has helped a lot of these sort of jack-of-all-trades players like Naga, and yeah, I just am impressed with the fact that he's been around for such a long time and has still played at a very high level. And I hope he continues to do so. I'm rooting for the guy for sure. I'm rooting for everybody here that I'm talking about, by the way. Even Flats, even Space, even Mace, rooting for all these guys, okay? Really, at the end of the day, it's hard to play professional video games for a long time, as funny as that sounds. Man, it's so tough to play professional video games. Feel bad for me. Linepro. Man, I don't have a lot of experience about Linepro. I don't know. I wrote him down. He's a coach now. He's a coach now, and he's doing well. I think he was also a very top tier. He was a good strategist player in this game too for a bit. He played main support in Overwatch. The only real experience, which I believe he was a tier 2, tier 3 player in Overwatch and European, in the European scene, earned a little bit of prize money, but it wasn't really like anything major. My only real note and the reason why I wanted to bring him up was because I think I trialed with Team Method when he was there for like a week, and that was actually this was the moment that I switched to flex support off of playing DPS, was because no team was trialing DPS players, so I tried it out as a support player, and I didn't think I played bad. I was probably just too forward, too aggressive, because the big learning phase for flex support in Overwatch was going from DPS to support. You have to learn to play back more, and I probably was too far forward and dying too much, and it's a learning curve that you need to get over, switching over to support, that a lot of DPS players don't really understand early on. And it is kind of hard to learn, I think, that role. But eventually I got there, just not with them. And I'm glad I didn't, because they had them like under arbitrage contracts, or Alcatraz contracts, arbitrage. What the fuck did I say? And they were you had to like buy them out and shit. So thank God, that might have killed my career if I played for Team Method. And thank God I didn't make that tryout. So shout out to Linepro for being a Lucio player back then and being an OG. I respect that. But he was a Lucio player. That was it. He's a Lucio player. TrqstMe. Ooh, trust me. He played off-tank in Overwatch, mainly in the second one, was notable. Didn't play in Overwatch League because he's probably too young at the time. No, he was too young at the time. In European contenders, he was a champion with Munich Esports during the A-Side Summer Series with a 3-2 win over O1 Esports. And a lot of that O1 Esports team actually went on to become like superstars and shit, with UB and Quartz and those guys, I believe. So that was a big deal at the time in Overwatch, in my opinion. This guy, like, really was one of the best Junker Queen players. I think that's not talked about enough, not only being a very hard calming player. I think he's, like, the best player you could play with, realistically, as, like, a tank. I mean, maybe he plays too... He's just so smart, dude. Like, not only being smart, but mechanically skilled and also very talkative is hard to kind of come by. And... yeah, especially for tank players. Like, a lot of tank players have a little bit of ego and also are just, like, not aware of what's happening in the team. I think the best tank players are also the, like, best macro players that are aware of what everybody else is doing and actually know what they should be doing and not getting mad at people, but, like, helping them more so. Like, I'll notice a lot of tank players, especially in our scene, will be like, I blame my support player, man. They're playing like shit. That's why we're losing. But I imagine, TrqstMe, when he goes to a support player, he's probably like, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what we can do to fix it. You know, because I really believe when he like thinks about the game at a macro level, it's just so smart. And yeah, I think he's a tough player to come by and has a lot of intangibles. Now, apparently that can be very hard to play with, as you can see with people like Melio saying it's hard to play with people like TrqstMe later on. So that can be interesting. Like, I think it's very grating maybe to play against people like TrqstMe, but he is like that type of guy that can elevate you if you can handle him. You know, like it's tough because he'll play at a very high mechanically skilled level that not a lot of tank players will, and also be like a coach and also try to do the macro and stuff. Like, I don't know how this guy's brain doesn't explode, dude. I can't imagine what it's like to be TrqstMe. Like, I feel like going to bed, my brain would just be melted. Like, I would go to sleep like that one meme with the guy in a microwave, with the microwave fucking, like drooling. Like, I don't know how this guy thinks with a brain that big and also being mechanically skilled. Like, he reminds me of, like, Hawk in that way, but even more of, like, a leader, I guess, than Hawk was a little bit. Level 1 Crook. He was a main support player in Overwatch 2, did not play in Overwatch League as he was too young, but had a lot of notable results back in the OWCS in 2024 in EMEA Stage 3, and also won EU Contenders, notably with TrqstMe back in 2022. So pretty much anything TrqstMe did well back in the EU days, so would Level 1 Crook. So he was a really good Lucio player, kind of underrated at the time. Didn't do too much and kind of was consistent. Also has a very fun name, Level 1 Crook. I mean, it's the fucking Facebook ad. Like, come on, guys. Come on, dude. Also, he's a very nice guy, very notable behind the scenes. Also pretty funny, too. So I love Level 1 Crook, and I think that he's also still going to have a pretty long career in this game as well, as he's still pretty young. Another guy we'll talk about is Kaya, who is a tank player in this game, which is pretty fun because in Overwatch, he was a DPS player. And not only that, but he was a Junkrat one-trick. What the fuck? He was a Junkrat one-trick in Overwatch, dude. It was hilarious. He had a duo named Ken, and they were known. This is the same guy, unless I'm like crazy fucking when I look this up, like because I've never seen him at LAN. So I'm sorry, Kaya. But I casted him in EU Contenders with Moxie, and he played under. Oh yeah, he had his duo was teammate named Ken, so we called him the Ken and Kaya duo, which is kind of like the it's not Ken and Kaya in Dota. There's like an item set that combines into one. Is it Yang and Yasha? No, what the fuck is it called? Dota to Yasha. Oh, Kaya and Yasha. So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, like the Kaya and Yasha, Ken and Yasha. They were like a sick duo in that regard because he was a Junkrat player. Who the fuck? All the Junkrat freaks were like actually very good. Like Sugar Free was also like that. Like he was an insane Junkrat freak and then also happened to be good at other heroes. Very weird. We'll talk about one more guy. I don't know if this is anticipated. I don't know if anything is fucking notable about this one. I'm just going to bring it up because he's a streamer in the scene. And you know me, guys. Big clout chaser guy here. We're going to talk about Necros, okay? We're going to talk about Necros. He was a DPS in Overwatch. Did not play in Overwatch League. Was more notable. I think he played in the Overwatch 2 era a little bit. He was like on the bench for some of the EMEA teams that I casted. Was there sometimes. He played okay actually back then a little bit. But back when I made Overwatch League, he was a streamer. He was mainly known for like a clip where he did like a crazy ghost dash on Genji that looked like he was cheating. At the time, I thought he was cheating. I'm going to keep it a bug. Like I was like, dude, he like perfectly flicked ghost dashed onto another guy, like frame perfect onto him. That was crazy. In hindsight, I think he maybe at best had like a script to do a 180 and might have got lucky or something in that regard. I think at minimum he was scripting. I could be wrong. And listen, this is not allegations. I just think it's like interesting to script anyway back then if he did. My nose is getting so itchy. Yeah. Necros was solid, but again, you one trick. He loves doing the one trick stuff. He said as much playing Spider-Man. Like he's never gonna be the best player, but he's gonna be interesting to watch. Like I think he has a very fun play style that's entertaining to watch, and I think there's something to be said about that. Like the Gales, the Necros. Like I don't think these guys are ever gonna be the best team ever. Like it's like even with Gale, I hate to say it, like these guys play a very fun brand of Marvel Rivals that's sick and I think deserves the fan base they get. But also like I can't ever see these guys winning the whole thing. I can't ever see them beating VP, for example, or any of the top North American teams. I hope they do eventually. I just would be very surprised if they did, for example. And Necros, I think he's done competing at the moment. For now, it's very stressful. It's very hard, I think, to play at a high level for a long amount of time. So I don't blame these guys for doing streaming full time, for example. It's way easier. Although it's not fun to play the same game 24 hours a day. That's why I don't fucking stream the game 24/7 and take breaks, because it's good. It's important to take breaks. People don't realize that. You can't just be grinding the same game every day. It's tough because you want to stay up to date with the meta, don't get me wrong. But that's why I'll take months breaks from Marvel Rivals, because it's healthy. It's just not good to keep playing the same game every day. Like, it's fucking bad on my mental. You have to be clinically insane to want to do that, in my opinion, like Necros is. That guy's a fucking freak mentally. Like, I will talk to this guy anywhere and everywhere, and he'll just talk about Spider-Man or something like that, and talk about how, whatever. He's like Jake. He reminds me of Jake from Overwatch, where these guys will just yap their head off about Spider-Man or Genji, about how he knew that Spider-Man's the player you have to play because everybody thinks it's so interesting. Like these guys will just yap about the game forever, and it's awesome they have the passion. That's the reason why they're able to do it so much. But as a normal person, I feel like I don't want to be around that for more than 2 seconds. Maybe that's just me. And with that covers every notable player that used to play Overwatch at any level. whether they were streamers, whether they're pro players now, whether they're coaches. That's what they were in Overwatch. I'm sorry I didn't cover. I feel like there's so much more to cover. That's the sad part. There's so much more to cover. A lot of the guys as well that are super young in this scene have history in other games and shit. Like, I'd be so curious where these other guys came from. You know, like, I want to know if fucking, I don't know, Blur came from Roblox or something, dude. I mean, fuck, I came from Roblox technically, you know? Like, that's crazy. Also, I don't need to talk about myself. You can look me up if you want. This video is about these guys, these pro players that are a lot. Like, the main reason as well I'm making this is because like I said, like, all these guys have personality and shit, and they're super fun to talk about, and also to look into their history and cover their story, because they do have a very interesting history and background. But there's so many players. I think for you guys, for a lot of the people that care about the esports scene for Marvel Rivals Ignite, for example, it's hard to find everything about every single player. It's not like everybody's doing their due diligence and looking up all that sort of stuff. So it takes a lot of time, and if you guys are interested enough, I will. Anybody I didn't cover, any of the pros I didn't cover in Ignite, I can try to cover them in their games and stuff. But like I said, the reason why this video was easier was because I literally have anecdotal experience with a lot of these players, and that's the only reason why I made this. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot harder if I were to cover, you know, the 16-year-old players, that are just coming into this game that have a history playing fucking Flappity-Doo-Dop, Flappy Bird or something. I don't know, dude. I'm sounding like a fucking old man. I'm leaving before this video gets too unhinged. If you want more of my content, feel free to subscribe, guys, and like the video, and let me know if you like it in the comment section. I'll try to stream this week, I think, on Twitch, too. You can catch me at twitch.tv/DogmanDustin. My other channel, my YouTube channel, doesn't really do a lot of this sort of videos. This Not Dogman channel is more my Phil channel, while I try to figure out what to do on my main channel. Yeah, come to the streams, boys. Come to the streams. I'll try to be as entertaining as I can be before I fucking die. All right? And hopefully it's not that soon. It might be that soon. I feel like death is coming. Death is coming for us all. I'm going to leave you on a very somber note. Try not to die, chat. Try not die. One of my favorite friends, one of my best friends, famous League of Legends player, Derek. Nobody knows him. Okay? He tells me this thing every time we play Heroes of the Storm ARAM together. He says, try not die. Okay? So I'll leave you with that message, everybody. Not going to call you chat. No brain rot here. Comment section below. Try not die. Okay? Bye.